Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Trade Stock. I'm your co-host today, Justin White. And before we jump into today's episode, I'm excited to announce that the Disruptors community is now live. This community is built for landscape and trade professionals who want to take their business to the next level, build to an 8-figure size operation, and be surrounded by professionals who want to innovate and disrupt the status quo. If this sounds like something you're interested in, check our website out to get more information. Go to www.jwhitegroup.com to find out more information and how you can sign up. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Trade Stock. I'm your host today, Justin White. Maggie will be rejoining us shortly. Do not be worried. She is coming back. Things have been crazy at the Service Titan headquarters, and she will be coming back here in the next couple episodes to join me as the co-host. So stay tuned for that. But today we've got a special guest. We've got Kris Kiser on. He is the president and CEO of Outdoor Power Equipment Institute. This is the association that works with Washington, D.C. and establishes the safety protocols that guide manufacturers and designers of outdoor power equipment. With battery power and autonomous mowers and everything going on, Kris is extremely busy and his team to make sure that we are safe in the field, our customers are safe, and we have the best equipment possible. But what's exciting and really what we're going to talk about today is the EquipExposition. The EquipExpo, it's the biggest landscape show on planet Earth. It's an amazing show. The story behind it and how they bounced back from COVID and took the management in-house and this entire journey that Kris and his team have gone through to provide the industry with one of the most amazing shows that there is exciting. So the next 35 minutes, you guys, are going to be action-packed, educational. I encourage you to stick around and listen to some of the details of this show. If you've never been to Equip, it's an amazing experience. You got to go at least once in your tenure, so make 2025 the year. The last thing we're going to check in on is the Turf Mutt Foundation, which is an amazing organization all about helping to educate tomorrow's landscape professionals, educating the youth of today. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode with Kris and talk about the EquipExpo. Hey guys, we're here with Kris Kiser, and he is the president and CEO of the EquipExposition, also involved with OPEI and the Turf Mutt Foundation. So Kris, welcome to Trade Stock. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good to be with you. All good.
Well, Kris, tell us a little bit about these brands and foundations that you represent, and maybe a little background about yourself.
Sure. The Outdoor Power Equipment Institute is a trade association in metropolitan Washington, D.C. Represents the interests of outdoor power equipment manufacturers and their suppliers. PEI owns the EquipExposition, one of the largest trade shows in the country. We're in our 42nd year in Louisville, Kentucky. We're the number 4 event moneymaker for the city of Louisville. So we have a very significant history here. Louisville helped start the show. And the Turf Mutt Foundation is the education arm of both of those. 3 separate legal entities, essentially one set of books, but they're all interconnected. The foundation educates kids about the importance of the outdoors and becoming stewards of the outdoors. And it's very, very successful. We've reached 70 million kids in 15 years. And we do sponsor a couple of television shows. We sponsored Lucky Dog in the education and information space on Saturday mornings, along with Mission Unstoppable, also one of the EI programming shows on Saturday morning. And so I commute between Louisville, Kentucky and Alexandria, Virginia, which is where our headquarters building is.
Wow. What an incredible reach you guys have had with not just the show, but all the other stuff that goes around it. 70 million kids reached. That's incredible. What are you guys teaching in those opportunities when you're reaching out and educating the next generation of outdoor stewards?
You bet. So we have education partners. So we place curriculum in schools. We don't develop that curriculum. We rely on others like the National Science Teachers Foundation, but our education partners historically have been Scholastic, which is the world's largest curriculum developer, Discovery. We've been on Animal Planet, the Discovery Channel. Discovery puts curriculum in schools. And initially we started out with Weekly Reader in schools in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. 15 years ago. We debuted, and it's told from a dog's point of view. Remember, nobody knows your yard like your dog. And so it's told from a dog's point of view, which has made it very, very sticky. And then our dog spokes dogs, the Turf Mutts, have been rescue dogs. And so we tie it to a promotion of rescuing dogs. As you know, we have a national dog adoption event at the show. So it's all interconnected. But we're teaching kids to become stewards of the outdoors. But importantly, it's what's called backpack programming. And so we want them to educate their parents about managing their yards in a way that benefits nature while at the same time maintaining curb appeal. And certainly in COVID, that's when we developed the Turf Mutt backyarding types. Our outdoor spaces became critical, right? They were the safe spaces. You could entertain and cook. I mean, I had an outdoor office, and now it's you exercise or do landscaping. But the criticality of our outdoor spaces to our everyday lives and to our mental health.
I couldn't agree more with that. Just going through COVID in California was such a challenge, and we had such a huge demand for people who wanted to build out a backyard office, backyard environments, kitchens. It really took off, a big boom for our residential industry. But why don't we go back a little bit? How did you get involved with these organizations? What was that initial introduction like?
I grew up in a political family, and I studied politics and communications in school. I'm from Southern Indiana. I went to Indiana University, and I went to law school in Louisville. I'm connected to Louisville from way back in the day. And I worked for a politician. So I spent 10 years on Capitol Hill. I worked for the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, who was also chairman of the Intelligence Committee and chairman of the Joint Economic Committee. So I worked with him, a guy named Lee Hamilton, for a decade. And then I transitioned, as a lot of folks do, out in Washington to representing businesses. So I worked for automakers and forest products companies. And then I transitioned to OPEI and run OPEI. And so then I returned home, essentially. So I was in Washington, D.C. for 35 years when the opportunity, our show was in Louisville. So when that opportunity came, when we brought the show in-house, so there'd always been an independent management firm retained by OPEI to manage the show until COVID. And the year past COVID, we took ownership of the show and brought the management of the show in-house. So we opened an office in Louisville. And that's when I moved to Louisville and reversed my commute and couldn't be happier. Louisville's a fantastic, fantastic town. And we've grown the show, as you know, dramatically over the last 3 years since we've had that management in-house. So the show has grown dramatically. We've had a sold-out show floor 3 years in a row. This is 1.2 million square feet. As you know, it's a big physical show. It's a very large show. You got, if you wear comfortable shoes. We have 30 acres outdoors, which makes it unique in that we let you cut, drive, dig, rip, tear, you name it, on the equipment. So it's not just like a regular trade show where you go and see all shiny equipment indoors. We let you get outside and we let you test the equipment hands-on.
It's such an incredible show. And I can attest to that. I brought, must have been 10 of our team members last year, and they didn't know what to expect because this is the first time we're going out to this show. Just for whatever reason, it being out on the other side of the country from us, we just haven't made it out there. But we're like, we're going to go. And it did not disappoint. I mean, we walked all day nonstop and saw so many companies. You guys do such a great job of collecting all the companies. There is brands we've never heard of out in California that were represented there, and we got to test some of their equipment out. Probably my favorite part of the show is the testing of the equipment, getting to drive the tractors and dig holes and stuff. How have you guys gone about growing that show to the point it is now with such a fierce amount of attention all over the world and the brands that are represented? What has been some of those strategies you guys have used to grow it?
We engage our folks and provide a unique opportunity for peer-to-peer learning. Landscape contractors do well when they talk with one another. How did you survive COVID? How did you do this? It was a terrible snow year, poor cash position. How do you weather these storms? How do you build your businesses? A lot of that peer-to-peer learning is done at our show. And so we have education classes from a lot of our partners, the Landscape Management, the Irrigation Association, the Pool and Spa Association, the tree care folks, you name it. So we rely on professionals in respective spaces, outdoor lighting, to come teach, educate, or have classrooms. We also have certification training for applicators at the show. But importantly, we invest significant monies in peer-to-peer social opportunities. So we rent Churchill Downs, the iconic Churchill Downs. We rented the First Turn Club, and so we'll have several thousand people in there where they can get together, have a good time, get a beer and a brat, and be with one another. This year, we're again at the Churchill Downs for our opening reception. Wednesday night, we have an outdoor concert on 4th Street Live downtown with the Crashers. We have a big concert at the Convention Center downtown with Big and Rich and a big country music artist. That's an investment. We have a 5K, right, with Mulligan's 5K down. It starts at Turf Mutt Park that we gave to the city. And we have the National Dog Adoption event. So we have a lot of social things that go on. Then a lot of our influencers and podcasters, again, I couldn't be happier that we're having this conversation. I love the fact that you came to the show and had a good show. And that's what we've done. We find a way to engage people like you, influencers, podcasters, to talk about the show. It's that word of mouth that has built it. We're in our 42nd year in Kentucky, in Louisville, and the show has continued to grow. We have a co-location partner with the Hardscape folks. Hardscape North America takes place. But we're doing something right. And so, again, we want to stay relevant. We survey the heck out of our attendees, and we listen to them. So we listen to what they say. We look at their recommendations, and we try to incorporate them. And that's how we've grown the show.
I completely agree that the peer-to-peer is the most valuable part of these shows. And going back to the show, I just remember I ran into so many people from all over the country and all over the world, influencers, podcasters, people who are big names and speakers in the industry. They were all there at Equip. I've seen them at other shows, like one here, one there, but Equip is it's like the Mecca where everybody shows up in masses, and you've got Podcast Row and you've got all these social events. I think a lot of other events also, they're so focused on the educational piece that they have speakers all day long and fill up the entire day. Yeah. You guys, you break it out. You got the adoption event, you got the 5K, you got the big country concerts that get people out, and not just out to just talk about landscaping, but also just to bond as an industry. So if someone's listening to this podcast, and I'm sure there's someone out there and they've never been to this show, what would you tell them as to what would they expect coming here first time?
It's not a one-day show. Plan. If you're going to take the time and energy and money and come to this show, then take the time to take it in. So look, it's 1,000,002 square feet, 30 acres outside. As you just described, it's a big physical show. Lots of education opportunities, lots of social opportunities. So the key to that is planning and comfortable shoes. Watch your weather. It's real world. So if it's hot here, you can get hot. If it's rain, you can get wet. It's your choice. Bring an extra pair of shoes kind of thing. So it's a big physical show. But what we've learned, as you just described, we're a 50-50 show. All 50 states, 50 countries last year. This show, well, we're the largest landscape contractor trade show in the world. We're the mothership. And so there are unique opportunities here. But the key is we're a citywide event. And Louisville, to me, is a Goldilocks town. We're big enough. We're small enough. It's easy to get around. It's a B2B show. It's a business show. It's not a public show. And so we sell at every hotel downtown, right? Yep. We do 34,000 hotel room nights that week. And so when somebody's in you get in an elevator at Distill or Hotel Bourbon or the Omni, the odds are very good that whoever's in that lobby with you or that elevator with you is from the show. And so, everybody wears their badges. And so these conversations start. I would say use these opportunities to engage people in the restaurant, in the bar, in the elevator, and that happens over and over and over again. Is you talk to somebody, this guy's from Guam. We have a guy from Guam, comes every year. Guam, New Zealand, Australia. We have Australian exhibitors, China, Japan, you name it. So people are global. It's a global show, but there's a unique opportunity to learn from one another from the United States. So plan, get on our website, look at the offerings. If you're flying into town, because we're citywide, which we fill up the city, the tickets get expensive as you get closer to the show, right? Your hotel room offerings will become more limited So pick the hotel you want. If you want to stay out by the exposition center, if you want to stay downtown near the convention center, you want to stay in the East End, which is sort of a happening joint, pick that place, but get those reservations now. You can always cancel those. And frankly, buy your plane tickets now because the seats will dry up.
Totally agree. We had a few more people from our team when it come last minute, and I was like, oh man, this stuff got pretty expensive pretty quick. So yeah, guys, if you're listening to this, just book it. You can always cancel, but book it now and get signed up. So it's an amazing show. Kris, I want to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about OPEI, and maybe just let's go into a bit of the state of the industry with so many changes. And this year was the first year that I saw across all the shows, battery power and robotics are taking center stage in a lot of markets. So can you give us a little bit of a state of the industry? What's going on with outdoor power equipment in 2025?
Sure. Big trends, as you just described, battery. The number of battery offerings now has meaningfully gotten into the commercial space. Most of the consumer categories are north of 60% now, essentially battery product, battery electric, but very few corded anymore, but mostly battery. Certainly on the handheld side of the equation, lots and lots of that product, north of 60%, almost all the consumer categories. Wow. Now you're beginning to see genuine penetration in commercial categories. It's a little slower adoption, but in the big wheeled goods. And you mentioned robotics. So this is the show, again, where you want to see new products. We have a new product showcase. A lot of our manufacturers debut products. We see lots of robotic offerings, lots of remote controlled stuff, lots of sophisticated software, new software offerings. So those technologies, those vendors, you mentioned exhibits. We have 1,000 exhibits. They're all at Expo. The other thing I do want to mention is because of the nature of our show, the history of the show, it's owned by the exhibitors own the show. If you go to the Toro booth, you're very likely to find the chief executive officer, in addition to salespeople, and you're going to find the guys that design the machine. OPI is a standards development organization. Those are the safety standards that machines are built to. Somebody say, well, why has the discharge chute been moved? Well, ask that guy right there. He helped design it to comply with the new standard. And they'll help you find the right machine. That's what I like, is because they'll say, why can't I just free see all this stuff at my dealer? Well, again, we'll have 1,000 exhibits. These folks bring all of their products, latest and greatest. But what I've literally seen, I've talked to somebody who's come and said, I'm here to look at zero turns, we're going to do zero turn, but end up on a stand on ride on, is that they end up with a manufacturer and they say, tell us about your client base, tell us about your needs, tell us about your cost structure, and they'll help marry you. Well, here, we want you to try this machine, go outside, drive it. We think it's a better fit. That happens over and over and over at Expo, is you have very large professional gatherings of these manufacturers, employees, and staff. You can buy machines there. You can book product. But more importantly, you can understand the product and have people on hand to tell you about it and educate you on new machines or future machines. That's what's so unique. But lots of battery folks are there, globally there. And so the latest offerings, again, we have new product showcase, will be at Expo year over year.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and I did notice that. I noticed as I went around some of the bigger booths, Toro, Kris, Echo, you would have an opportunity to meet founders, to meet CEOs, to meet the VP of product design, and it's a different conversation. Nothing against the sales guys out there. I love those guys. They're great. They know the product. But when you get a chance to talk to the guys doing the design, you just have a different conversation, and that's very unique. You almost never get that opportunity. It's really a unique part of what you guys do. Why do you think so many of these executives come to the show?
Value. COVID changed the name of the game. So, this show is 42 years young. This is my 18th year, my 18th show. But there had been growing a feeling of the show had lost its relevance. The show was not really important. There was some of that feeling. The show was still strong. The show was still growing. But COVID, when we lost the show that year in 20, we lost the show, and we did remote event. The next year they came back strong because they said, good gosh, this show is we can't recreate this interaction, this engagement, this involvement with our customers and our dealers and distributors. We cannot recreate this in any meaningful way by phone, by Zoom, in person, one or two people on the road. And it reinvigorated, it restarted the engagement process with our exhibitors. And since that time, we've meaningfully grown. But as you described, COVID, people reconnected with the outdoors. They tailored their spaces. They had offices. They had their outdoor kitchens. They had exercise areas, dog areas. And that has stuck. That reconnection to the outdoors, and especially now with young people, they want that outdoors to be they want it to be purposeful. Yeah. Not just aesthetic. It's not pretty, but they want it to be purposeful. They want it to benefit the environment, which it does. And so we've had a very good run of engaging our folks back to the show, engaging with their customers. I call it a family reunion, but it feels, again, this is my 18th year. Yeah. I have met people at the show. My first year, I know there's two companies particularly come to mind where two guys, a pickup truck and a couple mowers were starting out. And now they're large multi-million-dollar shops, and they come year over year over year. And so that's what you have. You've got literally billion-dollar landscape contractor attendees, and you've got guys with a pickup truck just starting out. And we run that depth and breadth. And that's how I think our folks really do learn.
And the chances that you might end up in an elevator with the CEO of that billion-dollar company are decently high. And so if you're the just starting out with a truck and a trailer and a couple of mowers, imagine what that 10-minute conversation could do to your vision and the future of your company. It could be a pivotal moment.
I've got, my landscape at my own home, right? So I have an acre and a half. It fits, as you might suspect, pretty well landscaped. Yeah. But my guy literally started out himself with a walk behind mowing yards. He's now got 6,000 clients, doesn't advertise, doesn't take new clients, took him 2 years to gain them. It's a monster business here in Louisville, Kentucky, and he couldn't be a nicer fellow. He brings his team every year. And you see that all the time at Expo, right? You'll see, this is a great team building exercise for a business, for an employer. You'll see them all in their shirts, right? Their long sleeve shirts or their sport wear. And because you bring your folks there, they can experience Equip. They can literally see the machines. They can go to classes, but more importantly, they can interact with one another, at a business offering or in a classroom or at the bar or at Churchill Downs or at the concert. And it helps build that team, right? The interactions between personnel. And so we'll see that's a real trend at Expo. You'll see the owner or the manager or the team leader and 8 guys or gals all together. And that's a real trend we're seeing.
I can speak from experience because we brought me plus 10 of our team members across the country. And obviously it's a big expense, but you're completely right. Those individuals who went to the show, we were all tighter. We had a better relationship after the show. And look, I could tell my team until I'm blue in the face about how important it is to focus on efficiency and route density. But when they hear it from someone else, it seems like it resonates.
Suddenly it's legit, right?
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that's a great idea. So they come back with all these ideas. And I think the biggest thing for me is what you said. It's not just about a classroom where you go in and learn. It's going out and trying out the new equipment. It's talking to peers. It's going to Churchill Downs. It's going to the concert. That is what creates the bond beyond just being in a classroom or going to work together. It's really amazing what you guys have done.
One of the things we wanted to do, and it certainly happened in COVID, and labor issues are becoming challenging once again. The change in administration, I don't want to get into politics, but the challenge is going to be real, even with legal seasonal immigration, right? H-2B stuff, it's going to become very challenging finding labor. And so our folks want to, how do I keep my people? How do I keep them year round? And so they nose into tree care, they nose into lighting, they nose into irrigation, they nose into all these ancillary businesses, pool and spa. And so we've put them all together. So they're at the show. And I still remember talking to a guy that's like, well, we're starting some tree work now, and we hired an arborist. And so we thought we'd come to your show. And he said, I saw that you guys had you were doing this, but then he said, then I walked into what you call a classroom, and it was Freedom Hall. and we had a 70. We owned the largest tree stand in the world. We put a 70-foot tree in it. We bring it in on a flatbed that you could literally drive onto the floor of Freedom Hall, and you erect it. We did in-tree training, ropes, etc. But that's the kind of real-world classroom we have. We'll do tree training, but we have a tree.
I didn't even see that one. That's pretty amazing.
Last year we couldn't do it because of the Freedom Hall was doing some stuff on their ceiling tiles and redoing some stuff. But this year it's back. So we did 3 years. We took a year off last year to help out the exposition center, but it's back this year. And we have bucket trucks they're coming in now. So there's a couple big exhibitors. They want to exhibit on Freedom Hall floor around that tree. So whenever we've gone into these spaces, these exhibitors have found that it's a sound business model. And so that's expanding. So we partner with the Davey Institute, Davey Tree. Again, we partner with professionals in the space. We don't put this stuff on ourselves, but we rely with professionals in the space to do it.
Well, and that's the power. I mean, those are the guys who do it day in and day out, and a chance to learn from them in that kind of situation, in a real-time situation, is pretty amazing. So there's a lot here, because as I'm thinking about this conversation and I'm applying it to our own business, I look at what you guys have done with the show just since COVID, how it's blowing up, how it's expanded. And there's a lot to take away of how we can utilize those lessons and implement into our business to grow our business. My big takeaway here is you guys have created a community where people feel at home and they come back year over year because they have friends, they have an experience, and it's a place that they learn. And I think it's probably a show that a lot of landscapers look forward to every year. So it's kudos on that. Congratulations.
I'm a bit of a dog guy. I've been in the dog rescue rehab business for a long, long time. My dog is the Turf Mutt. So it started out with Lucky. Now it's Mulligan. They're the Mutts, right? The Turf Mutt Foundation. They're the spokes dogs. Mutt Mulligan. We have the Turf Mutt Great Lawn of Louisville down on Waterfront Park now. We've given an agility training center to because of Humane Society. We've given a downtown dog park to the city. But I'll not forget my dog, who goes with me to the show. It's a very large, crowded show, but she'll walk down one of the big aisles of the show during the show. And somebody says, "Oh my God, there's a dog loose." And somebody said, "No, if you see that dog, look around. Kris Kiser is not far behind. He's around." And that's who we are. And then she'll go over. She knows the people at the Aaron's company. She knows them pretty well. And she'll go over and jump into UTV and sit there. So I talk about this all the time. We want to get dogs adopted. It's who we are. It's what we do. I asked for challenging cases. I got 12 dogs adopted in 3 hours last year. Wow. And I always ask for challenging cases. We're number one in getting 3-legged dogs adopted. Tripod was my favorite. And we do hurricane dogs. Our Humane Society here is a shelter for dogs from the south or hurricane areas or tornado areas. They take them in, and we help get them adopted. And this year on the Great Lawn, which we renamed, which is where we start our 5K down in Waterfront Park in the river, alongside the river, we're going to try to break the Guinness Book of World Records this year. There's a record for the most number of dogs watching a movie, God's Truth. It's 219, set by Los Angeles. And so this fall, we're going to try to break that record on the river in the Turf Mutt Great Lawn.
That resonates deeply with me. My wife is a big dog person. She has been. She'll name any dog that goes by, and she knows all the breeds. And so we rescued a pup about a year ago, and it's just such a rewarding experience to go through. And there's so many dogs out there that need homes. It's great that you guys are bringing awareness. What spurred that movement? Was that something that was created recently? How did Turf Mutt start?
Thank God we have a wonderful, wonderful board of directors at OPEI. And so we looked at, right when I joined OPEI, EPA had rolled out in the Water Sense program, and they wanted to demonize our lawns and landscapes. And they wanted to limit the use of turf grass to 40% of the landscapable area from the water office, not the air office, not the climate office, the air office, to say, because lawns use water. So we got to ban lawns. We got to ban living landscapes. We thought it was bullshit. Part of the expression, we thought that was baloney. How do we then educate families, the people that have these yards, how to best manage them, how important they are. It's essentially photosynthesis, right? Our yards are the largest carbon sink in the country. They produce the oxygen we breathe. They slow filter runoff. They help dissipate the heat island effect. So all these great things. And the best way to do that, and I wanted to tell that story from an education sense. I was part of at the paper industry when we put in education in schools because it was about recycling, right? They wanted to recover paper products because they needed that fiber. So I had some history with that. And so I worked with some educators and a communications shop. And I said, I want to tell this story. I need curriculum. I want to tell from a dog's point of view.
Yes.
So we struggled with what was going to be the spokes doggish kind of thing. And my dogs go everywhere with me. If you're around me, you'll see my dogs. And so my dog was with me. He was laying under a conference room table in Washington, D.C., and he's a good looking dog. And somebody said, will he wear a cape? And I said, I don't know. And so we tied a tablecloth on him, took a tablecloth off a table, tied it around him. We went out to the Potomac River, shot some pictures, and he's a big ham.
Yeah.
And it took. And so he became Lucky the Turf Mutt. He became the face of the program as a superhero. We got bad guys, Dr. Runoff, Carbon Creep, Heat Freak, Dust Demon, and he battled the bad guys. And that's what we put into schools in Sacramento 15 years ago, Sacramento in D.C., and it took off. And now we're in the Global Learning Lab of the United States Green Building Council. We're on a bunch of federal websites. It just took off. We sponsor TV shows because like Lucky Dog, right? They're all about connecting people to a rescue dog. We're about making sure they have the right kind of outdoors, the right kind of yard for that dog, for that family. So that was a natural marriage. We stayed in it. We're down on I think next year will be our 13th season. And it's just grown and grown and grown and grown. And so Lucky he passed at almost 15. And now Mulligan, his successor, she's a superhero. And she's the face of the Turf Mutt Foundation. And she's the face of the Turf Mutt Great Lawn here in Waterfront Park in Louisville. And it's just working. And so that's how it started. My dog was laying under a conference room table.
What an incredible story. That is amazing. I love that so much. And, here in California, as a landscaper in California, we are battling legislation and so much around the demonization of lawns. We've been able to take over a lot of parks, resorts that have a lot of lawn, and we have reduced their water down to a very manageable amount. So, I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done. And it sounds like that's a big part of what you guys are doing is educating people. Look, lawns aren't bad. We need to improve the way we manage our water, the way we manage our green spaces.
Exactly.
Starting with the kids is where it's at too. Get them educated so they're not afraid of a big lawn area, because you can manage the water on a big lawn area, no problem.
Well, that's the message. And again, a lot, if I was a lobbyist for a lot of years, no one's listening to me. No one's paying attention to me. Of course, you're going to say these things. You represent lawnmower manufacturers. But when it comes from a talking dog who's a cartoon, the other sticky piece of our program was Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Superman, Clark Kent. There's a real person behind the superhero character. Same thing, Turf Mutt, which is a cartoonized dog, is a superhero, but there's a real dog behind the character. So I'm telling you, having done it 100 times, you put a cape on a dog and walking into an elementary school, you have chaos on your hands in a wonderful way. And that's what we did. So we gave a lot of schools outdoor classrooms. We did a lot of education and training. My poor dog, we drove him from Washington, D.C. to Jefferson City, Missouri. We awarded an outdoor classroom to a winning contest school. But I'm telling you, that kind of stuff works with kids. And if it's backpack programming, they take it home to mom and dad. Mom and dad aren't listening to me, but they'll listen to their kids.
Absolutely, they will. And that's such a unique way to educate the communities, by educating the kids and giving them something that, of course, they're going to be excited when a dog walks into the school. Who wouldn't be? So, Kris, what a great story you guys are doing, and so much for the landscape and the green industries and what we're going. I think we're in a great spot. I think the future is bright. The next 5 years is going to be full of opportunity and excitement. So I just want to thank you for coming on here, sharing your story, sharing the story of so much of these brands, how OPEI turned into Turf Mutt and took over took back Equip in-house and how you guys have just really blown that show up. So thank you for coming on the show today, and thank you for sharing the stories.
Well, and thank you for having me. It's actually engagement like yours, educating folks or familiarizing folks with the show, with the opportunity of the show. You're helping us spread the word. You're connecting with an audience in a different way than we can. And so I'm very, very grateful for the work you're doing and for you having me on. I very much appreciate it.
Awesome, Kris. Well, guys, if you're listening to this and this is your sign, use it as a sign. This is your time. Go sign up for Equip. Get your tickets now because they're going to sell out like they always do, and get your hotel rooms and your flight booked. And we'll see you in Kentucky later this year.